Hello and welcome to reveurovision, where today we're reviewing the other semi-finals rehearsals and giving our predictions on who we think will qualify for the grand final on the 22nd of May. So the second semi-final is taking place on the 20th of May, and there'll be 17 countries battling for 10 spots in the final. Those countries are in kind of running order: San Marino, Estonia, the Czech Republic, Greece, Austria, Poland, Moldova, Iceland, Serbia, Georgia, Albania, Portugal, Bulgaria, Finland, Latvia, Switzerland, and Denmark. So first up is San Marino, and that was Jack's number one. So Jack, are you still as enthusiastic? Do you think it'll qualify?
I mean, I still love it, and it is one of my favourite Eurovision entries of all time still. I listen to it all the time. It's already my fourth or fifth most listened to song ever on Spotify, and it's only been out about 2 months. Love it, love it, love it. And the rehearsal did not disappoint. I always thought it was going to be quite difficult to stage, because dance songs, bar fuego, dance songs are really, really hard to stage. And I think I couldn't quite see the direction this was going to go in. What they've gone for is quirky and memorable without being too weird. I'm not the biggest fan of the backing dancers that are like the monster from Pan's Labyrinth. But I think it's distinctive enough. I think what she's wearing is really interesting. The Catholic thing, I mean, it'll do. There's absolutely no way that this is not qualifying. And genuinely, as I said in the review video, if this doesn't qualify, I quit Eurovision, because there is no way that this level of quality can't make it through, just because it's A, performing first, and B, because it's from San Marino. Absolutely 100% going through. How we'll do in the final, we'll see. But yeah, it's one of the 10, no doubt.
And James, are you as convinced as Jack?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, it was my number two. I absolutely love it, and I think it's, from seeing the rehearsal footage, it looks like it's got very strong Beyonce vibes. It's, I think it's been done really well. I think it's going to be one of those real success stories of ones that have translated across well from the sort of music videos to the lives. And I think it just, like Jack said, the costumes look really cool, apart from the Pan's Labyrinth element. There's a really cool sort of thing they're doing with the stage, where I think they're on a podium that's going to spin. That looks quite cool. And just, it's a real bop, and she's fantastic at singing too. So I think it'll sail through, and I think it'll probably come out on top, to be quite honest.
Oh, high expectations there.
Now,
yeah,
just to come back really quickly on that singing the vocals part, my one reservation actually as well was that she wouldn't be great live, but certainly from that first rehearsal video, there was no problems with it at all. Like, she smashed it. So yeah, sorry, I'll shut up now. That was an add-on.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of fairly in agreement with you guys. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't qualify. I think it'll probably be San Marino's kind of best result at Eurovision. So yeah, I kind of don't really have much else to add. So moving on to Estonia. Now, we weren't all big fans of Estonia's entry. How's kind of the clips of the rehearsal changed your mind at all, Jack?
Not particularly, because my problem initially was the song anyway. I think it's just a really shitty song. Isn't written very well, isn't very memorable. I think the staging possibly elevates it a little bit, but it's just man singing the song. And I think it will suffer. I mean, yeah, my opinion really hasn't changed at all. I think it will suffer after being after San Marino, especially because the rumour is Flo Rida is going to be there, because on the LED, his name popped up. So people will be so shook that Flo Rida is representing San Marino that I think people just miss over this. In the same way that back in 2018, when the UK was stage bombed, I was so shocked by it that I can't even remember who came after. I think it was Serbia or something, but I completely forgot their performance. And they didn't do as well as a lot of people predicted, because people clearly just forgot it. And I think that could happen with this. People will be so whoa that Estonia will just be completely forgotten. So I don't think it's going through. Well done for coming back and winning another national final, Luku, but this is not, you're not a finalist in my eyes.
So our first non-qualifier, James, what about you?
I 1,000% agree with Jack. I think it's definitely a non-qualifier. It's going to be definitely forgotten. I mean, I'd go so far as to say I think the staging's awful because there's nothing. All I can see so far, it seems, is him singing, looking like sort of, James Bond after a night out. And then, he's got nothing going on around him. There's literally a bit of smoke machine, and that seems to be it. And so to me, that, an already forgettable song is going to be forgotten, especially with, a lack of performance and staging, I think. I think that's one of the most important things with Eurovision. If you're going to do something that's quite a sort of slow number, it has to still stand out. Like I'm thinking back to sort of, Portugal. You had the piano and it was really well done. Whereas here, nothing that's going to make me think, oh wow, this stands a chance at all.
James Bond after a night out. That is, to be fair, I'm pretty sure he'd take that comparison, to be honest with you. But I know what you mean. The kind of the bow tie kind of around there. I'm like, But yeah, well, it's 3 out of 3 again. I didn't mind it, but I just think there are other songs that are kind of much better, and I do think it'll just kind of get lost in the mix because, like we've said, the staging, it's not particularly memorable. We've seen it all before. So yeah, for me, it's a non-qualifier. So moving on to the Czech Republic. Jack, what are your thoughts?
Okay, so the Czech Republic, I said in my review that I think it will go through because it's fun, it's entertaining, it will. I think my exact words were, I don't see any way that this won't go through. I'm going to go back on that slightly because the staging, there's nothing wrong with it, but there's nothing particularly memorable about it. Like all I can think now, a couple of days after he first rehearsed, was that he's wearing a gold jacket. And other than that, he's just sort of flailing about with a few people dancing around him. That's sort of all I remember. And I think it's one of my 10. I don't know how to describe it. It's one of my top 10 favourite songs of the semi. If it was me choosing it, it would go through. But I have a feeling, and this is a prediction video, that it will sort of be forgotten, sadly, especially because of what's coming next. I think, this will be another Estonia, the Czech Republic as a bubble will sort of be passed over in voters' minds. So unfortunately, I don't think this is a qualifier.
Another non-qualifier. James, what about you?
I mean, I think it will qualify, to be quite honest. When I did it, it was joint 22nd. I think it's quite poppy. It's got that sort of Eurovision feel to it, but nevertheless, there is an element where it sort of feels a bit like I've been trying to put it into words how I feel about it. And it's almost a bit sort of, I don't know, school talent competition when they're sort of trying to bop along to the latest One Direction song in a bold jacket or something, and it just doesn't carry across. And that's what it feels like a bit. I think it'll go through simply because a lot of people get behind it because I think this is poppy, this is quite cool, it's unique, when it's not really that unique. But yeah, I think he'll do all right, but I don't necessarily think it deserves to. But it'll be interesting. You never know.
Yeah, when I saw the kind of rehearsal, I felt a bit kind of disappointed with it. I felt like it almost looked like they couldn't really be bothered because it does just seem to be kind of like a group just kind of bouncing about slightly. But that being said, I'm leaning towards thinking it will still qualify because I think musically, less so kind of staging wise, but musically it's quite different to a lot of the other songs, and it's bringing kind of a musical genre that we don't always see at Eurovision. So me, I've got it down as a qualifier, but I won't be particularly surprised if it doesn't. But moving on to Greece, what do we think Greece will do? What do we think of what we've seen so far, Jack?
Well, I stand by what I said when I always said this is the best Greek entry for years, and it really is. This is it. They've managed to get the 80s feel for it with it, but without it feeling cliched 80s as well. It sort of plucks the best bits from it, but it doesn't go cliched as Denmark does, for instance. I think they've got her wearing something that it suits her for age-wise and her sort of like a body shape and the vibe of the song, but it's quite flattering as well. I think it's quite a memorable thing. Apparently there's a lot of green screen effects going on with it, which will be quite interesting to see, and it will be quite tricky to do, but I am very confident that even if it goes slightly wrong, this is quality enough to sail through, and I think top 3 in the semi is very likely with this. It's a very, very strong Greek entry, and I would love to see it in the final. Yeah, it's one of my 10.
Very optimistic there. James, do you share that optimism?
Yeah, I think I don't think it'll be top 3, but I think it will still go through. I mean, actually, funny enough, when I was deciding, watching all the rehearsals, whether or not I'd go through at first, I said no. And that was because Jack's face, there was something about it that I was like, I don't know, I just missed it. And then it was only when I went back and listened to them again that I thought, actually, no, it is really good. And I see what Jack means about it, like the background looks quite cool. It's sort of zooming through the cityscape and things. And that's quite good. I think it'd be very memorable. You've got the sort of over-the-top dancing as well. Like Jack said, the cool sort of costumes as well. Yeah, I think it's really good, and I think actually it will do quite well. Top 3 maybe not, but I think it'll do well.
Yeah, I'm still I'm not mad keen on it, but I do think it'll qualify. I think it's probably quite lucky in where it's placed in the running order, that it comes as kind of one of the first countries in this semi to kind of really go to town on like the purpley, neon-y vibe, because there are a lot of other countries who have done that, who kind of follow Greece. So I think she's lucky in terms of where she's placed, that she kind of gets in there first. I think kind of the nod to the kind of 80s will probably be appreciated by quite a few people. So I think there'll be no problem with, I think it'll be going through fine. But moving on to Austria. Now, we all weren't a fan of this one. Has the staging kind of changed your mind, Jack?
It has. I think it's pretty well staged, and generally the Austrians do know how to stage an entry that isn't very good. We had 2019 with Panda, whatever the hell that monstrosity was, and that was memorably staged, but the song was like dragging a cat up the M1. It was awful, and they've sort of managed to salvage this. I still do not like the song. I still think it's miserable. I still think comparing the end of a relationship to a funeral at the end of while we're still in a pandemic that's killed over 3 million people worldwide is not only insulting but pretty reckless. I mean, I can't stand the song. I think it's now got a chance of qualifying. I think it. Yeah. I'm going to say no for now, but I may change my mind by the end of this video. I don't think it's going through. It will do well with the juries, but it will be forgotten with the televote. And Austria always struggles with televote anyway. So I think it's going to average out at just about 11th or 12th, but it may sneak in. For now, though, I'm saying no.
So just falling outside for Jack. James, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's totally not going to go through. I think it's just as boring now as it was before. I think that all they've sort of done, really, I mean, already we spoke before, I thought it was an awful song, and now looking at the stage and they've dressed them in black, put them on a black stage with all black background. Well, to me, that doesn't really stand out. I mean, yes, maybe they may be doing more because that's all we've seen is a bit of a snippet from rehearsals. But to me, it's still, there's nothing special about it. And there's nothing that sort of makes me think, you know, they've really tried with this. To me, it's sort of like, you know, turning up, you know, just before the show, jumping on the stage, doing your bit, and then going off home. Well, to me, it's just lacking that sort of, that element. And like Jack said as well, it's really depressing. And after the year we've had, I think everyone wants something that's going to lift them up and not something that's going to bring them all down. And I think this will really be one of those moments that'll just bring the whole mood and atmosphere down, which is not good.
So another non-qualifier. Well, yeah, I'm going to make it 3 out of 3. I don't think it'll get through to the final. I do appreciate that they have done something more with the staging that kind of makes up slightly for it being a kind of crap song. But for me, it just, there was no way of really saving it. And it is going to come across as quite kind of depressing and a bit of kind of a black hole after kind of the purple neon that we'll see with Greece. So yeah, for me, another non-qualifier. But moving on to Poland, this was definitely not one of our favourites before. So Jack, Are you ready for the ride of your life?
I'd rather crash than get on this ride. It's still awful, absolutely awful. He cannot sing. But the backing dancers with these orb things, the tap on, tap off lights that you can get. I mean, that was done back in Slovenia 2007, for God's sake. That is a trick that's like 15 years old. That is how out of date this is. And didn't I say in the original review, this would have been cool in 2005? The lights are from 2005. That is, honestly, he's read my mind and thought, yeah, we'll go with that. I think maybe he took it as praise. It wasn't praise. It was an insult, and it is still insulting. I mean, Poland have failed to qualify with far better than this, and I think it's almost embarrassing. I sort of just want him to just not turn up to save him the embarrassment. So this is, I mean, there's no way this is going through. Yeah, absolutely no way. And other songs that aren't great have elevated more than this. So like Austria was only, I think, marginally above this in my original ranking, but the staging has elevated this. This is just like, it's really not good. There's no way this is going through.
So another non-qualifier there. James, what are your thoughts?
I mean, actually, I've sort of changed my mind in a way. I actually quite like it. I think it will qualify.
What?
Honestly, no, I think it will. I think, and please don't throw any projectiles. I think this is universally a pretty poor grouping of songs to start with, and for me, this is one of the only ones that actually stands out in any sort of way. That might not necessarily be for the good thing, but it's like you said about the lights. I think it's a bit like sort of Iron Man the musical. I quite like it. I think it's quite good.
It hasn't happened for a reason.
Well, Spider-Man can, Iron Man can. I mean, let's not talk about the fact that Spider-Man the musical went bust on Broadway, but nevertheless, I think he sounds okay. I'm not going to say he's brilliant, but he's okay. And I just think, when I was listening to all the rehearsals and watching and things, amongst all the videos I watched, it was one of the only ones that stood out and made me think, actually, this is all right. And I think that will do quite well, I think. And especially, anything that follows Austria is going to do better. So I think it'll be all right.
Oh, a split panel so far. Well, I am going to agree with Jack. I think the fact, because like you can see in the rehearsal that he's got the sunglasses on, and I just think anyone who wears sunglasses like that just looks like a bit of a twat. So I think he'll kind of come across as maybe kind of quite cocky and potentially unlikable. But yeah, for me, it's just, and the all in black suit, it does feel very kind of dated and kind of noughties. So yeah, for me, Poland, I'm sorry, you're not making it through to the final. But moving on to Moldova. Now, we did like this one in the reviews. Jack, what do you kind of make of the staging?
Well, I really like the staging. I thought what they could do, and Moldova obviously is known for the really sort of big, crazy ass staging, and this is decidedly a lot more toned down than previous years. But I think it is actually to the benefit of the song, because my main reservation about it before, and it's one of my favorites of the year, no doubt about it. My reservation was that it's a little bit too saccharine, and the ending bit, as I mentioned, watch the video back where she like rips his face off and it's a rainbow cake, and I was concerned about the potentially homophobic elements of it. All of that has gone, that's really bad English, and has been replaced by a performance that is actually quite classy, and they've kept the bits that were less tacky. Like, yes, the backing dancers are sort of shirtless, but they've got the sort of the tuxedo jacket on, and what she's wearing is very classy as well for the type of song. And I think they've actually elevated the song quite a lot by it, and they've taken away the sort of the potentially tacky elements of it. So I am pleasantly surprised by it. I think it's going to do very, very well, very widely played in Eastern Europe, and they've got a lot of friends in this semi. So this is, I'm thinking top 5 in the semi, potential top 10 in the final with this staging potential. So yeah, definitely one of the 10.
Oh, high praise there. James, what do you make of Moldova?
I'm willing to one up it. I think between this and Iceland, joint second, perhaps second and third, maybe. I love it. Like we said before, I really liked it. I think it's a really sweet entry, and I think it'll do quite well. And I think, like Jack said, I think it's just totally different, but in a good way. It feels like they've sort of gone, right, okay, game faces, this is what we're going to do. And I think it's sort of like, I mean, loosely I'm getting sort of like Marilyn Monroe vibes, that, like diamonds are a girl's best friend, the way she's dressed and things and the hair. I just think it's really good. I really enjoy it. And I think it really stood out for me amongst all the rest of them. And yeah, I think it'll do really well, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm kind of fairly in agreement. I don't know, maybe if I expected more from the staging, but then I do think it's kind of, because they do just seem to have kind of copied and pasted the dancing from the music video, which is kind of fine. It works, it's quirky, but maybe they could have had a bit more kind of imagination when it came to it. But yeah, for me, I think it'll go through. I think it'll do fairly well. Yeah, Moldova does have kind of friends in this semi-final, so there's no reason why it shouldn't do well. But moving on to Iceland, it was obviously one of the favourites last year before Eurovision got cancelled, but they're back again. And what do we kind of make of their first rehearsal, Jack?
Well, they've gone up the odds a little bit in recent days. I think they're now the 4th or 5th favourite. From the rehearsal, I mean, it's what we expected, really, from the rehearsal. It's the sort of the quirkiness. But I think, I don't know, it's not as good as last year. And maybe it's because I follow Eurovision a lot, but I'm struggling to get last year out of my head. But this is, it'll get through. There's no doubt about it. It's, no matter how you look at it, it's one of the 10 best songs in the semi. It will get through. It's not a Eurovision winner by any means. It may do better than I think in the final. It may end up top 5 in the final with a strong televoting score. But I don't really see the juries going for it massively. But yeah, no, it's sort of what was expected. And the quirkiness almost is borderline annoying, actually, in this. Yeah, it's all right. It's, what I expected. It'll go through. Not my favourite, though.
Took a while there to find the unmute. James, what do you make of Iceland?
I really like it. I think it's good. I mean, like Jack said, but I by no means see this as a winner, possibly second or third. I think the problem is it's very much like, if you go away and you watch the first Jaws movie and then you decide the next day to watch Jaws 2, it's never quite going to be the same as the first one because it's not going to have the same impact. And I think that's the problem they've got this year, because last year was such a massive viral hit. It was something that I certainly had never heard before. It just really stood out to me. And then this one is almost like, I think we've spoken about it a bit before, but it's almost like they sort of try to do it, but they haven't quite hit that. And I think it's also the sort of same really with they're sort of doing some of the dances and things, and they've made some new dances this year, I think. But it doesn't quite meet last year, and I think that's their problem. I think people are going to watch it, knowing, especially if you have a casual Eurovision viewer who will just watch on the night, and I think they might think, oh, I remember them from before, and then suddenly the song starts, and they're like, oh, it's different, and I don't know if that will be against them or not. I mean, like I said, I don't think they'll have any problems, but I don't think it'll place as high as it would have last year, which is a shame because, they've got the cool pianos, they've got, as I said, the dancing things, but just not quite as good.
See, I'm going to be slightly more positive than you guys, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this is possibly a potential winner of this semi-final, because as Jack pointed out, it has kind of shot up the bookies a little bit. And for me, I think it was always going to be kind of hard for them coming back, but I don't think a lot of people who think about things necessarily associated it with Eurovision. So I don't know so I think it might only be kind of the Eurovision nerds who will kind of make that automatic link and comparison. But for me, I love what they've done with the graphics. I love that they've kept it kind of really fun, even though it's actually quite a kind of sweet song. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. I was worried, especially because the music video is so kind of wacky, that they weren't going to be able to kind of bring that to the staging. But I think kind of the pixelated graphics, I think there's an element of humor in there. So yeah, I think no problems at all, and I think it is potentially a winner of the semi-final. But moving on to one of my other favourites, Serbia. Jack, what are you making of what you've seen so far from Serbia's rehearsal?
Again, sorry, I keep myself on mute. I love it. I genuinely think they have nailed the staging there. I mean, I love the song anyway. It has grown on me even more since the review video. I think I put it down as 12 in my review. It's firmly in my top 10 now. They have absolutely smashed the staging. It looks, you can't take your eyes off them. And the black and white, rather than it being 80, I think they've wisely gone away from 80s, as it was in the music video, because they've realized that a lot of other acts are going 80s as well. So they've pulled back from it. And while it works in the music video, it was a little bit tacky, perhaps. Here, it is just class. They've taken all what was good, almost about Fuego's staging. Obviously, it's very, very different, but the same level of just pure, look at me, I'm fabulous, I'm going to own this, do not take your eyes off me. They've got that down to a T, and I think they've absolutely nailed the staging. This is going to sail through to the final. It will do very well in the final because they've got the USP of being the only girl group this year. Yeah, I mean, congrats, Serbia, because I had pretty high expectations and they've surpassed it with this staging. They've done really well.
High praise indeed there. James, do you share some of that?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I'm still in shock that Jack made a comparison with Fuego. I mean, God, it must be good if that's the case. I mean, yeah, I love them. We spoke about it before. I said it's sort of like Eurovision's equivalent to what's their name? Not Fifth Harmony. What's the other one?
Little Mix.
Thank you. Yeah, Little Mix. Or Fifth Harmony. You know, we got US fans too, I'm sure. But no, I mean, I love them. I mean, originally I put them down as my number 12. I think they'll actually do far better. They're one of my sort of gems, if you like, of the semis. I think, I mean, Jack said it already. I can't really say much more than that. They've done it really well. Really classy, playing to their strengths. I mean, they've got some cool graphics going on in the background, but they're not too over the top. They play well with it, so I don't think they'll distract from it. But again, yeah, I mean, I really love it. It's such a good song, so that, you know, that goes a long way as well, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think they've absolutely kind of nailed it. I think they have done well, like we've said, to kind of stay away from the 80s neon vibe, because then it will kind of stand out on its own in the semi compared to something like kind of Greece or Denmark. They have absolutely smashed it. They look, if they're like, they must be absolutely knackered after they get through that performance, because it looks so kind of fierce. So I kind of maybe slightly worry for their vocals towards the end if they're all absolutely knackered. But yeah, for me, they've absolutely smashed it. Okay, so we've got through 9 songs there out of the second semi-final. We've got maybe kind of just over half our qualifiers so far. But yeah, we'll see you tomorrow where we go through the rest of the songs: Georgia, Albania, Portugal, Bulgaria, Finland, Latvia, Switzerland, and Denmark.